Elon Musk is absolutely having a meltdown. Indeed, I'm not sure that what we're watching isn't the downfall of Elon Musk. This guy blows with the wind. He is all over the place. Musk here clearly he's wounded. His ego is wounded. And his Mars-sized ego is demanding revenge on Donald Trump. So he's decided, you know what? If you're not going to let me be on the MAGA train anymore, where I get to jump around on stage and I get to feel the praise of the MAGA crowds, and I'm no longer going to be referred to as, a savior of America and civilization, and you're not going to give me the electric vehicle mandate and all these things, then I'm turning on you. So then what does he do? I'm going to start a third party. Musk knows that in starting his own party, the so-called America Party, which interestingly enough, the American Party is being promoted by individuals who aren't Americans. Welcome to another episode of Ideas Have Consequences with me, Larry, Alex, Taunton, and I hate to say that I called it, but I called it. Elon Musk is absolutely having a meltdown. Indeed, I'm not sure that what we're watching isn't the downfall of Elon Musk. By that, I don't mean he still won't have money to go and buy a private island or several private islands, or that he won't ever make it to Mars. I'm simply saying that Elon Musk is throwing a Mars-sized tantrum. This is all about ego that we're seeing from Elon Musk right now. And when I say that I called it, and I'm being somewhat sarcastic when I say that, I actually didn't think he was going to have a meltdown, nothing like what we see here. But I have been saying for quite some time that Elon Musk isn't a conservative, that he's not MAGA, that he's not America first. And if I had the blackboard behind me, and maybe in the next episode I'll do this, but Elon Musk, if we were to draw a straight line, and on one end we're talking about conservatism, and on the other we're talking about leftism, Marxism, communism, socialism on the other side. Elon Musk isn't on the conservative side. The guy's even referred to himself as a socialist. The guy he's pro-choice. He's obviously not really even pro-family. I mean, we see the kinds of things that he does with his concubines, and they really are a kind of harem. I mean, they all knew what they were signing on to. Ashley St. Clair, I don't really think you have a leg to stand on. You knew who Elon Musk was. He made pretty clear to you who he was, and that he wants to procreate with as many women as possible. He doesn't believe in God. He wants to brain chip his way to immortality, and he wants carbon taxes, all these kinds of things. So he's not a conservative. He isn't a conservative. He's anti-woke. That has been my argument. And the reason I've made this argument regarding him, and I'm not saying all these people are the same. They aren't the same. They're not even on the same place, on this political spectrum. And we're going to be talking about spectrum here in a moment, because Musk, everyone loves to say, well, he's on the spectrum. But the political spectrum, they don't all sit at the same place. But I have been warning the posse and others who watch this show that you need to be wary of people like, say, Candace Owens, of Jordan Peterson, of Tim Keller, of Russell Moore, of figures like, the pseudo-historian Daryl Cooper, Andrew Tate. There are several of these people that I have been, all of them that I just mentioned, that I've been warning about for quite some time. And it doesn't mean they don't occasionally say things that you appreciate, because they do. In fact, there are times where you can listen to them and you go, I agree with everything that person just said. And the reason for that is because we're talking about individuals here who are anti-woke. And see, that's what's deceptive here, because you look at an individual and you go, hey, that guy, he, just like me, he is opposed to the sordid sexual agenda, or he is opposed to open borders, or he is opposed to the idea of giving insurance, to illegal aliens, or he's opposed to sending billions of dollars to Ukraine. And then you come away and you think, that's a guy in my camp. But then when you start getting down into the details of policy and worldview, you discover that you don't agree with him. He doesn't agree with you hardly at all. And that's what's happened here with Elon Musk. Now let's back up just a bit and talk about why this has happened. And let's just talk about where Elon Musk has been. I mean, this guy blows with the wind. He is all over the place. And I'm sick of hearing that he's on the spectrum. It's not an excuse to behave like a bully, to behave like a jerk. Sin is sin. We call it out for what it is, whether it's mine or whether it's yours. We all have to repent of it. And there's no indication here that Musk thinks like that at all. I'm also sick of hearing that he's a genius. His genius is very narrow. It's in a particular area. He doesn't show himself to be that politically astute. Certainly doesn't show himself to be that historically astute, and definitely not theologically astute, though he is, he's what I would say is an inch wide and a mile deep. There's an area in which he possesses genius, but that doesn't spread it. That doesn't apply to all things. So Musk here, he decided to go after Trump. And why did he go after Trump? Well, apparently, according to what Trump has tweeted, it sounds like what happened is that Musk was extremely upset over the electric vehicle mandate. So the Biden administration had mandated that Americans almost have an electric vehicle by, I don't recall the date, but a particular year, particular time, particular date. And Trump, who has been nothing if not consistent on this all along, he has said he's not in favor of that mandate. He says he's not opposed to electric. He's not opposed to emergency vehicles either, but he's not opposed to electric vehicles. I think, like most of us, he seems to feel the technology isn't there yet. Probably will be at some point. But the iPhone 1 wasn't the one you wanted. You wanted it to go through a few iterations before the battery lasted more than 30 minutes. And I don't know that was actually the case with the iPhone 1, but you get my point. I'm just simply using that as an analogy that you wanted to wait till the technology, was first there. I mean, the very first cellular phones were not particularly good. I know this because I had one. We called them bag phones. You put it in your car and it had the cord, and there were hardly any cellular towers, and they were very spotty in the way they worked, and they were extremely expensive, and they just weren't that good. So you waited until the technology got there. And Trump realizes it isn't there. It may eventually get there, probably will get there. It certainly shows an awful lot of promise for that. But in the meantime, Trump has said, I'm not requiring, and thank God for this, I'm not requiring every American to go and buy an extremely expensive and extremely inefficient electric vehicle. I'm not going to make them do it. I'll let them choose. If they want one, then they can. If they want to buy a Tesla, great. If they want to buy a hybrid, great. If they prefer the internal combustion engine, that would be me, great. Let them buy it. Musk, as Trump has pointed out, had to know this. He says that they discussed it privately, but let's just say that's not true, that Trump made that up, that he invented it. I don't think he did, but let's just say that he did. It wouldn't matter because Trump has been very consistent on this all the way back to his first presidential term. It's like people being surprised that he was going to bomb Iran. When the man had said for years, Iran cannot have a nuke. He had been very clear on that all along. And the same is true here. Emergency vehicle, I don't know why I keep saying emergency vehicle, electric vehicle mandate. He'd been very clear on that all along. Now, some say that the falling out has to do with more than that. Undoubtedly, it became extremely personal, at least from Musk's point of view. And I have it from those who are very close to the administration, White House insiders, who tell me that the shoving match, the brawl, if I may call it that, between Elon Musk and Scott Bessent was real. I mean, you saw the photos online of Musk with something of a black eye. Maybe the black eye came from something else, but it was right on the heels of rumors that that had occurred. Well, I have been told by White House insiders that it did occur, that it was real. Furthermore, it was reported by multiple sources. And again, I'm not alleging to know this for a fact. I again have been told by insiders that it is true that Musk himself is a user, often a frequent user of illicit drugs, or that he is overusing prescription drugs. Again, I'm not claiming to know that firsthand. I have not seen that. I don't know that. All I know is what has been reported to me from those who seem to be in the know when it comes to these kinds of things. And by the way, I would prefer, by the way, to believe that that's what's going on with Elon Musk. That at least would offer me hope. Because if it isn't that, then it's just a product of him being just an unstable individual, period. I would prefer to think that Musk just needs a stint at Betty Ford Clinic, and then he goes and gets dried out, and then he comes out and he's sensible. But what we're seeing right now is an individual who is extremely unstable. So let's go back to this. Let's go back to his dark MAGA moment.
Take over, Elon. Yes, take over.
Hi, everyone. As you can see, I'm not just MAGA, I'm dark MAGA. Well, first of all, I want to say what an honor it is to be here. And, you know, the true test of someone's character is how they behave under fire. And we had one president who couldn't climb a flight of stairs, and another who was fist pumping after getting shot. Fight, fight, fight. Blood coming down the face. Now, America is the home of the brave. And there's no truer test than courage under fire.
So that's Elon Musk right there, all in his MAGA moment, dark MAGA glory. I mean, jumping up and down on stage. I mean, he's so excited. He's so all in on MAGA, wearing the hat, you know, the whole thing, singing Trump's praises, that true character is revealed under fire. I tend to agree with that. And that in that moment, you saw Trump's true character. I mean, he's just gushing in his praise of the whole MAGA movement and of President Trump himself. But now, and by the way, for those of you who are familiar with college game day, college football game day, that whole scene has Nick Saban, Pat McAfee vibes. If you've seen it, you know exactly what I'm talking about, where Saban, you know, sits very seriously and he's turning and looking at Pat McAfee, who's standing on the chairs and jumping up and down and this kind of thing. And it feels a lot like that. And the irony of all of this, in some ways, it's actually quite amusing, is that Musk has succeeded in doing something I didn't think was possible. He has made Donald Trump look like the very measured and restrained individual in this relationship, because for the most part, Trump has taken the high road as it applies to this. But let's think of this. Here is Musk jumping up and down on stage, doing all these things. He's all in on MAGA. That's just months ago, not that long ago. And then he went from that to calling on Twitter Trump. He implied, he didn't say it directly. He just said he was on the Epstein list, which now Pam Bondi says didn't exist anyway, but that's a different subject. But he says that he implies that Trump was a pedophile. Now that would end a relationship with anyone who was associated with me. You level that, you know, guys know, I talked about this, you know, at the time that it came out, but at the time that it happened, that guys know when they get into fights with each other, and they do as adults and, you know, as kids, And even as a child, you kind of know that there's a line you don't cross. You might be mad, you might call each other names, you might push and shove, you might even throw fists, but there are things you don't do. You don't break a bottle and go into the fight, or you maybe don't call his mother a whore. They're just things you don't do, right? And everyone knows that except for Musk. Musk doesn't seem to know that. And again, we're going to come back to the spectrum issue, that he's autistic or Asperger's or whatever it is that he's on the spectrum. I will come back and address that, but let me just say here very briefly, it's not an excuse to behave like an ass. And furthermore, people with such conditions, they're aware that when they're doing something that is wrong. That's why there's so much speculation about drugs as it applies to this. And it's why there are those who would say in the White House that this is what was going on and that Trump realized that Musk was unstable. But anyway, Musk comes out, he accuses Trump of being a pedophile, implies it, and Trump took the high road. And during an interview, I think it was with Fox News, we won't show it, but I'll just summarize it. Trump says, I wish Elon the best. He's a really amazing guy. And, but, we'll just go in our own separate directions. Musk then apologizes on Twitter, sort of. It's one of those apologies that's kind of like, I said some stuff. Rather than coming out really specifically and owning what he said, he came out and he said on Twitter, I went too far. I said some things I probably shouldn't have said. That sort of thing. Okay. So there's something of an apology. Sin was not against me. It wasn't against, anyone else. It was specifically against Donald Trump. And in the broader sense, I guess, against his family, to smear them this way. He said, I'll call Trump this weekend. And Trump said, not interested in taking the call. So what happened? Again, Trump took the high road, but I think I'm speculating here, and insiders tell me that they think my speculation is spot on here. Those who are close to Trump give me that indication that Trump's realizing that Musk was unstable. And by the way, Trump here bears some responsibility, as I'm sure he knows, because he created his own problem. And he did by elevating Musk early in this administration. And actually, we're still very early in this administration, but I mean just immediately, right out of the gate, straight after the inauguration, Trump kind of elevated Musk to a kind of co-president status. And I think that Musk enjoyed it. I think he was basking in the love he was receiving from the MAGA movement, from the America Firsters. He was enjoying all of that, and he was enjoying seeing himself called, the savior of free speech and saved America. And that I said on this show, and I meant it, and I still mean it, that as far as mortal man is concerned, that Trump owed Musk more than any other individual for his victory. And that's just simply because of what Musk did on Twitter in preserving. I don't think X, I don't think Twitter is a free speech platform, but it's more free speech than it was under the old regime. And certainly conservatives, had the boot put down on their throat, big time. When we saw the Twitter files, what was happening in the Twitter files, government collusion. I mean, Trump was kicked off, just completely off of that platform. So we know that was happening. And we know that Elon Musk, after he purchased it, those things changed. Babylon B came back, and Donald Trump had the right to come back. He stayed over at True Social because he has a financial investment in it. But what Musk did was real. It was real. And Trump, I think, in part to show his gratitude, elevated him to a position that, at least to the public, looked like a co-presidential kind of role. And Musk loved it. He loved it. Here he is, a South African, naturalized American citizen, guy who is the rags to riches a poster boy for the American dream. And now here he is hanging out with his child, one of them, in the White House with the President of the United States flying around on Air Force One. This is heady stuff, even for a man who is touted to be the richest in the world. Very, very heady stuff. And I'm sure it went to his head. Then all this happened, and Trump kicked him to the curb politely. Let's just say he dropped him at the curb and moved on because he realized that he had brought someone inside the inner circle who could not be trusted. His behavior was erratic. And so what happens is you have Musk accusing him, implying that he's a pedophile, apologizing, and then he turns right around and accuses him again. Again. It's pretty incredible, but it shows you his instability. So he then again kind of sort of apologizes. But then what happens? He tries to defeat the big beautiful bill. Point isn't whether or not you like the big beautiful bill. The point is that here is a guy that supposedly is all in on MAGA that had to have been listening to Trump when Trump said that he was not in favor of carbon taxes, which Musk is in favor of, not in favor of massive government subsidies for electric vehicles, and not in favor of electric vehicle mandates. So all of a sudden, Musk goes sideways again, and he goes out of his way on X to do anything he can. And this, by the way, was for me kind of revelatory, because Musk trying to defeat the big beautiful bill, it became clear that Musk doesn't have the political clout that he thinks he has. He has a certain social clout. But political clout, I'm not sure that he actually has. Now he does insofar as he has the ability to turn a few knobs and tilt the table in whatever direction he wants to at Twitter. But I don't think he's done that yet. At least not to the extent that the previous overlords at Twitter did. So he tries to defeat the big beautiful bill. Then he begins pouting. You can just see it. You just see it in his tweets. You almost hear it, that Musk himself is upset that he didn't get his way. He lost on the big beautiful bill. So then what does he do? I'm going to start a third party. I'm going to start a third party. Now, why would you do that? How do you go? To those of you who are big fans of Elon Musk, along the way, when I have talked about Musk, this is probably the fourth episode of Ideas Have Consequences that we've done on Elon Musk. So Elon Musk has been a subject that we've addressed many times. And I've been very clear that there's much about Musk that I've appreciated and admired. More than one of those episodes are actually quite positive about Musk, or we're defending Musk. Not that he needs it. I'm small time relative to the platform that he has, but we're here to inform you and help you navigate the culture and try to understand these things. And I've always been a little nervous about Musk, because my advice to you is take issues, take people, one thing at a time. One thing at a time. One policy initiative at a time, one cultural issue at a time, rather than just saying I'm all in on whatever Republicans or Democrats or feminists or environmentalists or whatever do. Because you can weigh anchor pretty quickly and go sailing off into another world. And at various times, the Democrat Party has been doing that for the last, since the Civil War. But Republicans have been doing an awful lot of that as well. I mean, we've seen it with rhinos and so on. So my advice to you has always been, let's just take things one at a time. Let's consider them one at a time, whether it's Gaza or it's Ukraine or it's Russia or it's electric vehicles or it's the border. Let's consider them one at a time, and let's try to compare them and understand them through a biblical lens, something that is anchored in space and time and that can give us some direction. That's what we try to do on this particular show. So here's a guy who decides he's going to go and start his own political party. And again, let's listen. Let's read a tweet of his. This was before the election in November. So again, I'm just simply pointing out to you how unstable Elon Musk is. Very few Americans realize that if Trump is not elected, this will be the last election. Far from being a threat to democracy, he is the only way to save it. That was just last autumn. That's less than a year ago that he was saying that. And then he goes on to say that we are quickly moving towards that if Democrats get what they want, we will become a one-party state and we will slide into totalitarianism. He's 100% correct about both of those things. He was 100% correct. But how do you reconcile this with starting a third party that will benefit no one but Democrats? Because it threatens to split the Republican vote. And by the way, it doesn't have to win elections, actually. It only has to siphon away votes from the right. That's all it has to do. And Musk knows this. He does know this. He's not stupid as it relates to this. Musk knows that in starting his own party, the so-called America Party, which interestingly enough, American Party, is being promoted by individuals who aren't Americans. It's being founded by a guy who wasn't born in the United States, and Elon Musk. And it's being promoted by individuals like Mario Nawfal. I don't know how you say that guy's name. He isn't American. He's Lebanese, living in Dubai, and Ian Miles Chong, however you say that guy's name. Both of those are pets. Both of those guys, neither one of them live in the United States. Neither one of them are U.S. citizens. And they are guys that Musk tweets and retweets constantly. And that's because by the way, here's a little TED Talk. Within Ideas Have Consequences. You want to get ahead on Twitter? It's very simple. You just simply kiss Elon Musk's ass daily. That's just what you do. It's better if you do it with cleavage. He particularly likes pretty women. Slides into their DMs. Do it with cleavage. Be a pretty woman. And kiss his backside every day, and he will retweet you. He will take whatever restraints on your account there are and set you running. It's how he ended up with Ashley St. Clair. That's the way Musk has operated. And these are guys, these are males, they don't have the cleavage, but these are guys both operating offshore, neither one of them Americans, that Musk retweets constantly because they're constantly singing his praises. They know how to stroke his ego, and they know that he will build their following for him. And that's what they do. And they're promoting the American Party. The American Party is going to be made up of, he had this poll. How many of you want a third party? That poll should have been limited to American citizens, but Musk doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to put a check, by your name indicating where your citizenship is. He don't want to do that. That's going to hurt his platform, and definitely would have hurt his poll. His poll shows that an overwhelming number of people responding wanted a third party, not Americans, unless they're Democrats. If there was going to be a party that would compete with Democrats for votes, I would want that party too. I would be voting for that third party to split their votes. I'd be happy for that. You better believe that Democrats want this. Listen, just an aside, seeing what's happened in New York and, the mayor's race in New York and individuals like Ilhan Omar and so on. The Constitution of the United States says that you must be a U.S. born, American born, and citizen, of course, to become president of the United States, but that does not apply to many other public offices. And that's a flaw in our system, in my opinion. I do not think, even if you are a naturalized American citizen, you get constitutional rights, but I do not think that you should be allowed to run for political office, to start or lead a political party, or to contribute to political parties and campaigns. And that's because it opens us up to a Manchurian candidate. And that's the direction we're going. It's interestingly enough, I had the Bible, out here. I read to you in the little episode that we did on, this Bible verse that is being circulated by leftists from Leviticus chapter 19, I believe it is, verses there that they're using to basically say that illegal aliens have a right to be in this country and there really shouldn't be any borders. And it's nonsense. That's not what those verses are saying at all. But I countered it by reading from Psalm 106. At the end of Psalm 106, there is a warning, and it says that when a nation refuses to acknowledge God, he eventually hands them over to be ruled by foreigners, by people, that chapter says, who hate you. We're moving in a direction like that. We have to be extremely careful that Musk is wielding far too much political power, far too much political clout for a guy that wasn't born and raised in this country. I find that highly problematic. I mean, imagine what the Chinese or the Russians or the Saudis or anyone can do, because they're learning how to game our political system against us. That is what's happening. And Musk is trying to do it now. I mean, Musk's statement, as he's jumping around on stage, the character is revealed when under fire. I think that's largely true. It's not 100% true. There are many people who've been under fire and behaved very badly, but they were or became individuals of exceptional character. But applying Musk's own criteria for character to Elon Musk, Musk is currently under fire. He's under pressure. And what character are we seeing coming out here? We're seeing a tantrum by a spoiled child. That's what we're seeing. An individual who's used to getting his way. And I will say this on his behalf. Surely a problem, there are a myriad of problems with the human condition, with human nature. I like what William Golding said, and I paraphrase, but he said the problems of human society are the problems of human nature. That's 100% true. But surely one of the great problems of human nature is this, that when a man is when he surrounds himself by yes men and by millions on a platform like Twitter who continually tell him he's a genius, he begins to believe it. And it destroys him and it destroys other people around him. It destroys many things whose loss will be felt. And this is Elon Musk. None of us are built for that. None of us are built for that. I will tell you that as a historian, there are a lot of obscure, kind of academic discussions, that take place among pipe-smoking curmudgeons in smoke-filled rooms where they're talking about, was Ivan Grozny, Ivan the Terrible, the Russian Tsar, was he crazy all along or did he go crazy? How about Caligula, Nero? They crazy all along or did they go crazy? How about Kim Jong-un? Crazy all along or did he go crazy? And then that usually leads to discussions about rare diseases and conditions and food poisoning and things that might have affected them, physically, mentally, that brought about some sort of disease. I think the answer is much simpler than that. And it's because we have modern days examples of it. Human nature hasn't changed from the time of the Roman emperors until now. Human nature is the same, and it's the same the world over, across ethnic and racial boundaries. It is the same. And so we can find examples of this same phenomenon of going from seemingly being very rational. I mean, Nero, for example, had been taught. He was a student of the great Stoic philosopher Seneca. I mean, he had been well trained. His mind, his character. He had been given more or less the best. And early in his reign, he shows signs of great rationality and of capability as an administrator, as a visionary. And then it all goes off the rails. So, how do we explain that? Well, I think the answer, as I say, is quite simple. And we can find modern day examples of it. Where? We find it among celebrities. We find it among, our overpaid athletes who are praised constantly and told how great they are. Movie stars who are, have adoring fans, singers, people like that. And if you've ever spent any time in the company of such people, and I have, you can see it. And in a sense, they aren't wholly to be blamed for it, but that don't mean that they don't bear responsibility for their own actions. We all do. Rather, what I mean is that none of us are built for that. You need to have people in your life who love you enough to tell you the truth, who are willing to argue with you, not just for the sake of argument or being a jerk, but to tell you when you're wrong or you did something that you shouldn't have done, who are willing to call you out because they care about you. You need that. And what happened in the lives of all the people that I've just mentioned, and then you could add to it a host of celebrities that might be, thrown in here, or politicians, and maybe especially politicians, is that you get to, I see these people at the World Economic Forum every year. I mean, the way they behave, they are sure that they really are exceptions to humanity, and that's because people tell them they are. They tell them how much they love everything they do. They get everything for them. They laugh at their stupid jokes. They tell them they look good when they're fat, when they're ugly, when the facelift didn't take. They tell them their performance was wonderful when it wasn't. They tell them that they're the most spectacular individuals who've ever lived when they're not. And they come to believe it. We would all begin to lose our bearings in a situation like this. And I will tell you this, Elon Musk is not an exception to humanity when it comes to these things. There are no exceptions to humanity. There are none when it comes to this. There's some that it affects worse than others, but the fact is it affects everyone very, very badly. And Elon Musk is a guy who doesn't believe in God. He's just come to believe that he is one. And then he can do whatever he wants. Part of what we're seeing here is what's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. The Dunning-Kruger effect. The Dunning-Kruger effect is this idea that your success in one area, maybe extreme success, as Musk has had with Tesla and SpaceX, that your success in one area leads you to believe that you'll be successful in every other area because you start thinking of yourself infallible. Now, I've seen this many times. Much of my career has been spent in the company of people who, if not the smartest individuals in the world, were promoted as that, were proclaimed as that. So an individual like, say, a Richard Dawkins, scientist like a Richard Dawkins or a Daniel Dennett or a Christopher Hitchens or a Peter Singer or others that I could name. Individuals who were constantly being told how clever they were, how genius they were. And having spent so much time in such circles, do you know what my conclusions are? I'm unimpressed. And this isn't due to any kind of intellectual deficiencies on the parts of those that I've just named. It isn't because I think of myself as more clever than they are. Not that at all. These are all individuals whose achievements are real and substantial, who intellectually speaking are rather exceptional. Rather, the point that I'm trying to make is that if I came away, I remember the first time I met Richard Dawkins when I was a young man, or a much younger man, 20 plus years ago. And he was kind enough to host me in his home for coffee. And here was a guy that was touted as this, not just a very accomplished Oxford University scientist, but that he was a man who was being hailed as really kind of the modern iteration of a Huxley, of a Bertrand Russell. That is to say, Darwin's pit bull, as some called him, or Rottweiler, I think it was. That here was this fire-breathing atheist who was just slaying Christians right and left. And I thought, gosh, I was a little anxious going to his house because here I am, I'm a Christian, and I'm thinking, is this guy going to whip out these genius arguments that are just going to bowl me over? Will my faith be left shipwrecked after I engage this guy? Because he's going to have arguments I've never heard. He's going to expose tremendous flaws in my Christian belief, and I'm not going to have any answers. I go in, I sit down, we begin to enjoy our coffee, and he decides to come straight after me on this. I mean, in a nice way. He wasn't being a jerk, but he was stating, and I can appreciate this, he was stating with conviction his own position. And I began to relax. I began to warm to the fight, and I began to have a very good time. Now, why is that? Well, it's because it became abundantly clear almost immediately that there were no new arguments. And by the way, this isn't because of any deficiency in Richard's superb intellect. I realized that Ecclesiastes is right. There's nothing new under the sun. There are no new arguments. There are only repackaged old arguments. And he was just making the same arguments that often more able atheists had made long before him, some cases centuries before him. He was just giving them a new twist, new marketing, if you will. Hence the reason they were called the new atheists. And as I'm sitting and listening to him, I'm realizing I think I can hold my own here. And I think I can push back pretty well on this. Now, the point that I'm trying to make here isn't really one about Christianity, though I hope you get something from that. The point I'm simply trying to make here is that the best of humanity, and Musk has been hailed as that, the greatest of our geniuses, I've realized, are as nothing to the Lord. It's just foolishness. As Scripture tells us in Isaiah, I think 55, as high as the heavens are above the earth, so are my thoughts above your thoughts and my ways above your ways. Meaning, having been, hanging out with some of the finest intellects humanity has ever produced, I come away realizing we're not a very impressive species. And that's because we are all, even those who are exceptional in some field, maybe even in a couple of fields. That's usually the way genius expresses itself. It's in a specific way, in a specific field, but quite shallow in others. Hence the reason I say inch wide, mile deep. Now, there are guys, maybe the smartest guy I've ever met, fan of this show, and certainly a dear friend of mine and has been something of a mentor to me for many years. That's Professor John Lennox. John Lennox is a guy who shows a fair amount of, I just say this as a guy who knows him very well, privately. John might be a little embarrassed by this, but John shows an aptitude for quite a few things, music, theology, science, mathematics. The guy possesses 3 PhDs, Oxford, Cambridge, University of Wales. And yet Lennox, I think, would agree with everything I just said there. He would agree with everything I've just said there. And you see, knowledge, and I'm really addressing the idea of Musk's genius here. Knowledge, as you grow in knowledge, I think it's easy to be arrogant when you're younger than when you're older. And that's because when you're younger, you know a lot less. It's why our parents were so frustrated with us when we were young, because we were so full of ourselves. We were so sure we knew what parenting looked like and what the world looked like and how everyone should do everything when we were younger. And now we see the same thing in our own children, and they eventually with theirs. That's the pattern. That's the way it goes. But part of the reason it's easy to be that way when you're young is because you do know so little. Wisdom dictates the more you know. Some people think it's the opposite, that it's like this. It's like an opposite Bell effect. That if I had a whiteboard, if I had a chalkboard, I'd draw it for you, but that it looks like this, that the more you know, the less there is to know, that the field of knowledge gets narrower and narrower and narrower because you're learning more and more. But wisdom dictates that it's actually just the opposite, that the more you learn, this has been the case for me in my own life, is the more I know, the more I realize I don't know. In fact, the more I realize how very little I actually know about anything. Wisdom takes you in that direction. It's why Aquinas, one of the greatest intellects humanity has ever produced, whether you like him or not, isn't the point. I'm a Protestant, but I think Thomas Aquinas is his Summa Theologica is the summary of theology is a tour de force on many levels. And yet, when he got to the end of his life, he said it wasn't worth a pile of straw. Now, did that mean he thought that what he had written wouldn't be helpful to anyone? No, I think it meant that his learning had brought him to the place where he realized that in the face of God's magnificence, of his omnipotence, of his omniscience, all of it is just so much claptrap. We need to be careful. Humanity has not done Elon Musk a favor in constantly heaping the genius label on him. Must be pretty hard to uphold it. He clearly isn't a genius in everything. Maybe with rockets, maybe as a businessman. He's shown himself to be a very clever businessman who's learned to game the system. And by the way, it's why he understands, in multiple interviews, he talks about how Soros games the system against the American people. The reason Musk understands that so well is because Musk has done it. Musk himself has done it. He knows the way the system works. So Musk is a very clever businessman. But if he thinks he's going to brain chip his way to immortality, he needs to know this. Death is undefeated in all but one exception. The mortality rate for every generation is 100%. 100%. There's only been one to defeat death, and that's Jesus Christ, and Elon Musk needs him desperately. The praise of men can be one hell of a drug. And in the case of Elon Musk, like the individuals from history that I was referring to before, any other celebrity who has had so much praise heaped upon them, you begin to lose your grip on society, and you start thinking, you know what? I really do know everything, and I really am pretty exceptional, and I am really pretty great. And so Musk now planning to start a political party. And this is all a tantrum, by the way, to get back at Donald Trump. That's what this is about. This isn't driven by any kind of high-minded principles. It has been said, I think it was historian J.M. Thompson, who said this in one of his books, and I thought this was a brilliant observation. He said that a man is never so dangerous as when he can identify a personal grievance with a matter of principle. Let me repeat that a man is never so dangerous as when he can identify a personal grievance with a matter of principle. That's when we as human beings, and we all have done it at one time or another, we hide our grievance in a principle. We pretend that it's not personal, and we try to say that this is really about some kind of noble cause, when the reality is a personal grievance or a dislike of an individual or thing is really what's driving. It's dishonest. And Musk here clearly he's wounded. His ego is wounded, and his Mars-sized ego is demanding revenge on Donald Trump. So he's decided, you know what? If you're not going to let me be on the MAGA train anymore, where I get to jump around on stage and I get to feel the praise of the MAGA crowds, and I'm no longer going to be referred to as a savior of America and civilization and all these kinds of things. You're not going to give me the electric vehicle mandate and all these things. Then I'm turning on you. And I'm turning on you big time. And so that's what he's done. That's exactly what he's done. And he's hiding it in the principle that he's sick of waste, that he is sick of corruption. I think he is. I believe that he is. Doge served an important function as it relates to that, but that's not what's going on here. You see, Musk wanted everything all at once. He does not understand how Washington works. Trump realizes he has to play the long game. That's the way politics work. You don't get everything you want all at once. You have to give a little here and there. And as Steve Bannon, who Musk has also attacked, has pointed out, they plan to get it. Listen, was the big, beautiful bill everything that the MAGA movement wanted? Of course not. Of course not. Not even close. But it's a start. And as Bannon has pointed out, the goal here is to get the rest gradually by winning the midterms, by winning in the courts, and through the use of executive orders. These are also through future legislation. You have to play the long game. Trump understands this. Musk doesn't. He doesn't get it. But he's decided, I'm going to sink you all. And so he's decided to go and create his own party. And you know what song immediately came to mind as I was thinking to myself? It's my party and I'll cry if I want to, cry if I want to, cry if I want to. You would cry too if Scott Bessent happened to you. Musk is mad here. He got a shoving match in the White House and he lost, apparently. The rumor is that Scott Bessent kicked his ass. And then he didn't get all the other things that he wanted. And Trump, realizing he's unstable, said, you know what? We really thank you and we wish you well. We really wish you well. We're going to leave you right here. We're going to move on. Musk wants revenge. He wants revenge. Let me read to you what Trump had to say about this. He just tweeted this. I'm saddened to watch Elon Musk go completely off the rails, essentially becoming a train wreck, and he is a train wreck, over the past 5 weeks. He even wants to start a third political party, despite the fact that they've never succeeded in the United States. The system seems not designed for them. By the way, America First, MAGA, is a third party, in a sense. I mean, there's Democrats, there's rhinos, and there's MAGA. That's what's happening here. But anyway, the one thing third parties are good at for the creation of complete and total disruption and chaos. And we have enough of that with the radical left Democrats who have lost their confidence in their minds. Republicans, on the other hand, are a smooth running machine that just passed the biggest bill of its kind in the history of our country. It's a great bill, but unfortunately for Elon, it eliminates the ridiculous electric vehicle mandate, which would have forced everyone to buy an electric car in a short period of time. I have been strongly opposed to that from the very beginning. People are now allowed to buy whatever they want, gasoline-powered hybrids, which are doing very well, or new technologies as they become available. No more EV mandate. I've campaigned on this for 2 years. Quite honestly, when Elon gave me his total and unquestioned endorsement, I asked him whether or not he knew that I was going to terminate the EV mandate. It was in every speech I made and in every conversation I had. He said he had no problem with that. I was very surprised. Additionally, Elon asked that one of his close friends run NASA. And while I thought his friend was very good, I was surprised to learn that he was a blue blood Democrat who had never contributed to a Republican before. Elon probably was also. If you really want to understand how politically astute Elon is, or isn't actually, he voted for Obama twice. He voted for Hillary Clinton, and he voted for Biden, all of which he himself has stated publicly, meaning that he is a Democrat. He is a Democrat. So this is probably true what Trump says here. I also thought it inappropriate that a very close friend of Elon, who was in the space business, run NASA when NASA is such a big part of Elon's corporate life. My number one charge is to protect the American public. I think Trump is doing that. And I think what Musk is trying to do here is just simply to cause disruption. I have said to you before on this show that there are people who, if they cannot get the attention they want, and Elon Musk craves attention. I think that really is what buying Twitter was chiefly about. It's about Elon Musk. It's a platform for promoting Elon Musk and for Elon Musk to enjoy people telling him how wonderful he is. That's what it's about. And that's what's going on here. Now, we can hope and pray that Elon Musk finds his sensibility. Listen, I'm not asserting in any of that. I don't claim to be better than anyone. I claim to be forgiven. Repentance is a really extraordinary thing. I've done it not just once when I became a Christian, but I've had to do it many times, sometimes for many days in a row, for things that I did, wicked things that I've done, that I had to seek forgiveness from an individual I've wronged, and very definitely to seek it from my God. My God is a gracious God who extends forgiveness, who extends mercy, who extends grace, but he does require repentance. And that's something that Elon Musk hasn't done. I hope that when he stops spinning off into space like one of his rockets, that he finds a firm foundation, and he's not going to find it in atheism. He's not going to find it in brain chips. He's not going to find it on Twitter, on X, whatever you want to call it. He's not going to find it at SpaceX. He's not going to find it in Tesla. He will find it in the person of Jesus Christ, whom he desperately needs. And I want to end with this. We've been celebrating this month the greatness of this country. Ladies and gentlemen, I have been in, more than 70 countries, north of 70 countries. I have been in every one that is considered a potential rival to the United States. All the Scandinavian countries, Western Europe, Japan, China, everyone that would be considered a potential rival for that title, greatest country in the world. I've met amazing people. I've seen incredible things. And I'm truly grateful for the experiences I've had around the world. But make no mistake about it. If you live in the United States, you live in the greatest country in the world for all of its flaws. For all of its flaws, you live in the greatest country in the world. Let us together make this country even greater. Let's end the evil that is in this country. Let's end the evil that previous administrations were doing around the world through organizations like USAID. Let's bring God back into the public space. And let's give thanks. Let's give thanks to God for the great many things that he has done for us, for his restraint in punishing us, and for giving us opportunities to repent of our evil as a nation. And let's celebrate the fact that this is absolutely the greatest country in the world. This has been another episode of Ideas Have Consequences with me, Larry Alex Taunton.